citizens of YouTube land.
Hey,
Sorry, guys. Sorry. I'm in the middle of cooking supper for later on tonight.
it's your president and your VP.
And today, since he's gone laughing, today we are covering the film Requiem for a Dream, a film directed by Darren Aronofsky and written by Herbert Selby Jr. and Darren Aronofsky.
Who wrote the book? Hubert did, by the way.
Yeah, and it stars Ellen Burstyn, Jared Leto, Jennifer Connelly, and Marlon Wayans. And the film had a budget of $4.5 million, and the box office was $7.4 million at the box office. And it had a release date of October 6th, 2000. So,
the score was done by Clint Mansell, because it's important that you know who did the score in this movie, because the musical score is what ties the whole thing together. So let's go ahead and get started with this one, because today's one is a doozy, and we're going to be talking about, well, caffeine quite a bit today.
Yeah. So the film starts out with our main character, played by Jared Leto, named Harry, and he's taking his mom's TV and pawning it because Harry has a crippling caffeine addiction.
And his best friend is played by Marlon Wayans, and he's right there, right alongside with him. And his name is Tyrone. And both Harry and Tyrone are, well, they're scumbags, just straight up.
Yeah.
Because his mom can't even get out of the house. It's pretty obvious that she's very, alone and afraid of Harry, as a matter of fact. Because he has to coerce her into giving the key, because she had to resort to, locking her TV up with a chain so that he would just come in and steal the TV. And that's where we're at right away.
So then they go ahead and they kind of pawn the TV off for money so they can get some caffeine, right? And so basically after that, Harry then meets up with his girlfriend Marion.
But before that, they ingest their caffeine in a way that we can't really talk about here on YouTube, because it involves, your arm. So that's as far as we can really say, is that it involves your arm, the way they ingest it.
Yeah, YouTube's very strict on a lot of things, guys. So this is one of those movies where we have to toe the line with.
And that's why we're saying caffeine a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, you're welcome.
Yeah. So he meets up with his girlfriend, Marion, and then they kind of have this nice little cozy thing on a top of an apartment. And it's like Jared Leto, by the way. He's kind of like the one that pulls everything through for his performance here. And this is one of his best performances.
Yeah, because there are quiet moments, such as the one that he's describing on the rooftop, where there are moments of what seems to be an idyllic happiness, and there's certain moments throughout the whole film that you're going to recognize where you're like, huh. So this is them at their high points, which are few and far between, scattered by crippling lows. Because they decide, Harry and Tyrone, they get together after having experienced their caffeine, and they decide that the caffeine is so good that they need to get some more of it and, kind of distribute it themselves.
Yeah, because Harry says to his mom that he got a job as a distributor for a big importer.
Yeah, so, which he's not entirely wrong when he says that. He just didn't say what he was distributing. So,
yeah.
And we'll get to that too, because that's kind of that's important and tragic. So they come up with the idea, and they get their caffeine, and things are going to go hunky-dory for a while.
But they break the number one rule when you're dealing, and that is that they. I think we
they
could say it.
use their caffeine when they should be distributing their caffeine.
Yeah. They break that number one rule. They use the caffeine on their own, and you shouldn't do that.
No, because they end up with an even more crippling addiction to caffeine.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so back up a little bit though, because meanwhile, the mom, she's very lonely, she's very sad, she's very depressed, she's addicted to watching her TV. Because here's the thing, guys, is that we kind of were like, at first you might think that Harry spirals into this. No. Him and his friends already are addicted to caffeine. His mom, on the other hand, is not addicted to caffeine yet. She is addicted to television and to food. So they each already have an addiction. Hers gets replaced by super caffeine.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why that it gets replaced by super caffeine is she gets this phone call where they tell her that she's going to be on television, right? And she's like, "Oh, no, I'm not interested. I don't want to buy it." And they're like, "No, you don't understand. We're just telling you that you already won and that you're going to be on television." So she immediately gets her head full of this delusion, though, that it's going to be something much more than what it's not, because chances are it would have been like a brief appearance on a game show and that would have been it. And it would have been like a 5-minute segment or something, guys. It wouldn't be like propeller to superstardom. This is, the year 2000. They don't really have American Idol or anything like that yet.
Yeah.
So with that being said, she has this red dress that she had wore to the graduation, and she puts it on, but she can't fit into it. So she goes to her friend, and her friend tries to help her and dyes her hair, but her hair is not the same color that it was at the graduation, because why would it be? First of all, even if she did dye it, that it would have had to been like a really deep red, because she was a redhead. And she ends up looking like Lucille Ball, so there's that. She already looks a little ridiculous, and what happens to her is quite tragic, though, guys. She goes out and gets the form, right, and mails it in, and she's on a grapefruit and egg diet. I guess that was kind of a thing. I don't know. It probably was.
It's a weird crash diet, actually.
Yeah, probably.
That's what it is. It's a weird crash diet,
and
guys.
So she's on this weird crash diet that was given to her in this book, and it doesn't seem to really work because the food, she's constantly thinking about it. She's even hallucinating that there's donuts and like Long Johns and all kinds of different pastries, pies, as she's laying in bed. But her friend had mentioned that her Rosie had went to this doctor, and the doctor gave her some pills, and poof, she don't want to eat. So the mom, being kind of simple-minded in the first place, falls for it hook, line, and sinker. She gets the prescription. She goes and sees the doctor. She gets the prescription. She starts taking them, and she starts zooming, y'all. That super caffeine kicks in, and she is like a rocket.
Yeah, it kicks in immediately.
And she is all over the place. Meanwhile, also eating a cream cheese bagel at the same time. But, yeah, so there's that. So, we want to head back on over and see what Harry and Tyrone are up to. Well,
Tyrone, he meets up with some people, right? It's basically other, distributors, if you will.
Yeah. What should we just said that they went through their phase where they had got their caffeine and were doing really well and overindulging in their caffeine at the same time. But now he's met up with some dealers. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it turns out that, they wound up getting into this gang war, if you will.
Yeah, and Tyro witnesses some people getting sleeping with the fishes with him right away, and he gets caught up and he gets busted, and the cops take him to jail. And lo and behold, it basically takes all of their money to get him out.
Yeah.
And now suddenly, there's no caffeine on the streets to be had.
Yeah, because the distributor down in Florida says he wants it all to be settled beforehand.
Yeah, but they still need their caffeine. So what are they going to do? Well, there is one person that has caffeine, and but he's not selling the caffeine. He wants to persuade women to become, well, women of the night for him.
Mm-hmm.
In exchange for said caffeine. And so Harry, and which we kind of forgot to mention, but his girlfriend's name is Marion, and there's actually some scenes that are really, really important involving her, because they get this idea that they can get a score of caffeine, but they need $200 in order to get it. So before Marion becomes a woman of the night, because spoiler alert, she does, but before she becomes one, she actually becomes one ahead of time, because they need $200 to get their caffeine. And it's really ridiculous even saying it like that, actually.
Yeah, they need their caffeine because they all have a crippling caffeine addiction. And so basically then like Harry and Tyrone,
they persuade her to go see her sleazeball therapist, who she had established. They had established as a sleazeball earlier in the film, and she's full blown into the caffeine, because she tells her sleazeball therapist that she wants the light left off because she doesn't want him to see the evidence of said caffeine use.
Yeah.
And Harry, it all kind of blows up in their face, though, because they have to go to the grocery store to score their caffeine. And there's this big schmoz and a dust up, and the distributors of the caffeine were like, nope, yep, peace out, we're out of here.
Yeah, and then basically, like, Harry and Tyrone get the bright idea to go down to Florida themselves. But then, like, we see early on, after, like, Marion starts having withdrawals, that Harry starts getting a really, really bad spot on his arm.
Yeah, from his overindulgence of the caffeine. So he's got this really, really bad spot on his arm, and Marion,
it just gets worse.
Marion and Harry, by this point, their relationship had been so focused on caffeine, and caffeine was pretty much the only thing that really actually bonded them together, except maybe possibly some slight love they actually had for each other that was eradicated by their crippling addiction of caffeine. So with that being said, let's head back and see how Sarah is doing. Well, turns out at the same time, Sarah's not doing so hot, y'all. She has full on, blown on, into super caffeine addiction mode.
Yeah, and to the point that she ultimately has she has full-blown psychosis.
Yes, full-blown psychosis. She starts hallucinating that the TV program that she's watching is in her living room. She hallucinates that the refrigerator is coming after her. She runs down, she screams, she runs out, which it shows that it's all in her head, by the way, because, as he said, psychosis. So she heads down to the studio, y'all, to see what's what, because it's been, well, since the summertime when she started taking the caffeine to begin with. So she heads down there, and lo and behold, they decide they're going to call, well, the authorities to see if they can get her some help, because it's obvious that she's in a psychotic state. So they get her, they take her off to the ambulance, to the hospital. Meanwhile, as this is happening, since they decided they were going to head down to Florida, the situation with Harry's arm has gotten so bad and so grotesque looking that they have to go to a hospital. Well, that wasn't a very smart idea because it's Virginia and it's probably some redneck county in Virginia because you pick up on like obvious subtle racism in the film towards Tyrone, which
Right
is
at this
not really
moment,
so
yeah.
subtle once they get arrested because turns out they don't really want somebody that has gay greed in their arm running around.
Yeah, and it's like I get that they have to report it to the authorities, but also at the same time they're supposed to like actually like help them. Like
Yeah,
that's something that's an actual criticism I have to say about both the book and the novel is that yeah, they're supposed to report that to the authorities, but also at the same time they're supposed to help them even if they have.
I think it was though to meant to convey the cruelty that there was this sort of I don't give a damn attitude about the
Yeah,
situation.
but still, that's just like it's not realistic in a way. I get what they're supposed to be conveying there, but like it's an actual criticism I have about the film is that
So
the doctor doesn't help Harry with his arm when in that first
they
scene.
go to the jail and they go through this sequence, and we're entering the final act, y'all, of all of this. It's basically what's called the breakdown scene toward the end of the film here, and uh, they go through this emotion, the sequence of can you hear me? Can you see me? Okay to work. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Okay to work. So they
And
go
it's
through
all
all this
it's
and they
like
get to
intercut.
Tyrone, and Tyrone kind of mumbles, "Yes, sir." And this is where they kind of club him on the head. And
Yeah, and mind you, it's all intercut with like Sarah getting ECT as
yeah,
well.
because she had refused by this point to traditional methods to get her to start eating again. And also at the same time, Marion's situation has gotten far worse, and we can't even talk about what's going on with Marion.
Yeah, we can't. There's just we can't even say what it's happening with Marion, and
No,
that's
you'll
like
just have to watch what happens to Marion for yourself, y'all.
yeah.
We in all good conscience,
But
because we keep this pretty much family friendly to begin
yeah,
with, and because of YouTube, can't. So,
yeah.
anyways,
Anyways, so like it's a really cool scene because it's like everything is kind of like intercut, and there's a lot of jump cuts and it's very fast paced and stuff, and it's like it's very stylized, if you will, and you
yes.
could say that pretty much about the whole thing for the whole film.
So yeah, you've got this sequence, and Harry's in the hospital, and he's getting his arm amputated, and Tyrone is on the jail work gang, and he's mashing potatoes, and so this whole sequence it's spiraling out of control. They show the ECT, and everything's happening at once. Then we get the aftermath, and the aftermath of it all, guys, is after all of that, they are all still trapped in their dreams. Because the whole time they all had the dream to escape the situation they were in, but because of the caffeine, they couldn't see and were blind to it the whole time. So the
Mm-hmm.
film ends with all of them in the exact same fetal position.
Yeah.
And that, our friends, was Requiem for a Dream.
It's a rough watch.
Yeah, honestly, it's a rough watch and it's a rough read, and I wouldn't recommend anybody reading or actually seeing the movie unless you're of like 18, 19 years old at least, because of the subject matters that were discussed. And parents, if you did for actually think that you could possibly let your children watch it, well, screen it ahead of time. I'm going to say you probably won't agree with that after you screen it ahead of time. But with that being said, guys, the movie itself, the acting is superb. As he said, Jared, I know he gets a lot of discredit these days for being, well, really, really weird, and for also being kind of a bad actor these days. But his early performances, such as this one, man, go back and check it out. You're going to be surprised if you only know Jared for his work from today. Check this thing out, and you're going to be surprised. I promise you. You're also going to be surprised by one Marlon Wayans, because at the time, guys, he was only known for the Wayans brothers, and also Scary Movie was out at the same time. So he was really only known for comedic roles, and this is such a dramatic shift for him. That alone makes it a standout performance. Also, can't say enough about Ellen's performance as
Ellen Burstyn.
Sarah. She was just, oh my goodness, just knocks it completely out of the park there. And also the willingness of Jennifer Connelly to put herself through this, what she must have had to go through internally to capture Marion on screen. My gosh, I can't say enough good things about the performances alone. And the director himself, having reached out to the writer of the book and had him write the screenplay. So, yeah.
Yeah, so like I remember reading in an interview once saying that like Darren Aronofsky was in a hotel lobby after completing his first film, and he saw the book on a shelf there, and he's like, oh, I might as well go ahead and read it while I wait. And he said it was so gripping that as soon as he started it, he could not put it down until he finished it.
So with all that being said, guys, I guess we have to give the ratings for this one. And, of course, definitely 5 out of 5. What say you?
4 3/4 out of 5.
Fair enough.
It's only for my actual criticism I have with the film near the end there. But, like, other than that, it's a really solid film. But that's just, like, the one major, like, point of where I'm just like, okay, come on, guys.
But of course, guys, if you have seen Requiem for a Dream and you believe that it is the worst drama of all time, well, then clearly you have not seen. I'm drawing a blank on that one. Sorry.
I don't know. There's a lot of bad dramas out there. We can probably come up with something later.
Yeah, we can probably.
Oh wait, there you go. There's one right there.
Which one?
All Eyes on Me.
Oh, yeah. Clearly, you've never seen All Eyes on Me. That's a good one. We'll probably eventually talk about that one at some point. For you guys, we torture ourselves sometimes because we've got. And you know who you are, but we finally will be getting around to the review, although he doesn't want to do it. But with that being said, guys, there's only one thing left for us to say on this review, and that, of course, is
peace and love from Danny and Son. Bye.